welcome to another episode of Diving In Deep podcast. I am so beyond excited. Today we have Grammy Award-winning songwriter, the longest running member of the Grand Ole Opry, a dear friend of mine, somebody who I met when I very first moved to Nashville, and I recorded one of his songs on my very first album, Three Chords and the Truth. It's a song called Walk Out Backwards. He also surprised me with informing me that I was going to become a member of the Grand Ole Opry last year in 2023. I can't even think of what else to say about him other than I'm so honored to have on the show Whisperin' Bill Anderson. Bill Anderson, thank you so much for coming on my podcast. I am so honored and thrilled to have you. I just wanted to say that my brother Matt said to tell you hi because we have such fond memories of you from when we were little kids. And my grandpa had a little radio and he listened to live from the Grand Ole Opry all the time, every time we were there, which was all the time. And you have just always meant so much to our family musically, but then personally to my career from practically the minute I moved to Nashville. So I'm so grateful that you're here right now. Thank you so much for coming on. I don't even know how to introduce you because everybody knows who you are. You're a legend. You're an unbelievable songwriter. You have a beautiful voice. You have been, I don't know, kind of the brand of country music for so many years. And we met because I got a publishing deal at Sony Tree Publishing when I first moved here. And you were writing there at the time, correct?
Yep.
And I remember the first time we met and I just was in shock. And I ended up recording a song of yours on my very first album, Three Chords and the Truth. And the name of the song is Walk Out Backwards, which is such a perfect country song. So I guess I just want the fans to hear from you, like who you are, where did it begin, and how did you become you?
Well, I was born me.
You were born
I didn't have to become me.
Was Whisperin' in your birth name? No, I know it wasn't. That was because of your beautiful voice.
But I have a third grade report card. This is true. I have a third grade report card, and you know where the teacher, they have room for the teacher to write little comments. My third grade teacher wrote, "Billy whispers too much."
You are lying.
I am telling you the truth. So I started at an early age.
You really, really did. And were you just like whispering about girls or just gossiping or just
I'm sure.
talking
No,
soft?
she just meant I was talking too much in class,
yeah.
you know, and you try not to talk too loud so she won't hear you.
Right.
So you just kind of whisper. But no, whispering was not a part of my birth name.
But what are the odds of that? She wrote that.
They're pretty small, aren't they? Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, you said you didn't know how to introduce me. That was a beautiful introduction. The only thing you left out was that your great-grandmother had all of my old records, and your great-great-great-grandmother had...
No, my
I've
granny.
been around a while.
Listen, my granny and papa, who were my granny was my favorite person on earth, and my papa, he bought every vinyl of Live from the Grand Ole Opry. So he had every edition, you know, and they were very, very, played a huge role in me and my siblings getting into music just because of their love for music. But I don't say that to make you feel old because they were very young grandparents. I will tell you that.
Well, now she's making up to me. See?
Yeah. I'm backtracking.
That's all right. I've been around a while. I know.
Well, you look amazing. And I know that you're still an amazing songwriter. One of the songs that I just always can't believe that you wrote is Whiskey Lullaby. And you wrote that with John Randall. What inspired you with that song?
You know, when you have you make an appointment to like co-write with somebody, as I'm sure you've done many times.
Yeah.
And you try to go to that writing session with an idea. You don't want to walk in there and say, gee, I don't have anything to contribute. What have you got? You know, you want to take something in there. So I went into the writing session with John that day, and I said, I've got a song idea. I spoke up first. I've got an idea to write a song. I want to write a song called Midnight Cigarette. And he just kind of looked at me. I said, now the idea is that it's midnight and the cigarette is sitting in an ashtray and it's just slowly burning out by itself. And before dawn, it'll be burned out. And I said, I want to relate that to a relationship, like a relationship that just kind of is in an ashtray and just kind of burns itself out like a midnight cigarette. John said, I love that.
I love it
I
too.
love that idea. And then he picked up his guitar and he hit a chord and he said, but I've got this thought too. And he hit the chord. He said, he put that bottle to his head and pulled the trigger. I said, forget about Midnight Cigarette. But we ended up, the opening line of Whiskey Lullaby is she put him out like the burning end of the midnight cigarette.
I was going to say, it made the song still.
I feel like I contributed something.
Absolutely. Wow. Yeah, that is such a, well, I love dark songs about, you know, drinking, smoking, breaking up, cheating, you know, that's
what a country singer is supposed to be made of.
Exactly. There's not enough of those songs these days.
Me and John used to say, and John's written some great songs, but he used to say, I love to write with Bill Anderson because he's not afraid to go dark. And you know what he meant by that. He meant I wasn't afraid to write. We've got a song called Name on a Stone about a graveyard. We've got some, we wrote a song called Demons that Kenny Chesney recorded. It never released it as a single, but it's one of those deep, dark songs. And John and I enjoy pulling that out of each other.
So where did you grow up and how did you get into music in the first place?
That's a real good question. I was born in Columbia, South Carolina, but my parents were both from Georgia. So when I was about 8 years old, we moved back to Georgia to be closer to their parents as they were getting on up in years. So I grew up in the outskirts of Atlanta. My daddy found a little town called Decatur, which at the time was about 10 or 12 miles or so outside of Atlanta. Well, it's still right where it always was. Yeah. But Atlanta has just grown and, you know, gone on way on past Decatur.
Right.
But I grew up in Decatur, Georgia. It cost 5 cents to ride the streetcar downtown to Atlanta to a movie and a dime to go to the picture show and
amazing.
15 cents, I think, to go to a baseball game. So it was a good childhood. My parents were not in show business or related to that at all. No, well, my grandparents, going back one generation on the Anderson side, my grandpapa was an old-time fiddle player, had a string band. Yeah, my grandma picked guitar and sang a little bit. But by the time I came along, I think they decided, well, that's a bunch of foolishness. We got to get down and make a living and do some real work. You know?
Right.
But so I never had that influence from within the family, but there was just something in the air, I guess. I didn't have the grandparents that played the records and bought the vinyls and all like you did. But there was just something in me. I sought it out. My parents tell me I could find the country music, or they called them the hillbillies back in those days. I could find the hillbillies on the radio a long time before I could button my shirt and tie my shoelaces. It was just something that came natural to me.
You were born to do it.
Yeah, I think so.
Do you have siblings?
I had one sister.
You had a sister. It is funny because you can have an entire family that doesn't have anything to do with music, and then there's just something in you, and who knows? I mean, obviously, it was probably from your grandparents that played fiddle and...
Well, my grandfather on the other side was a preacher, Methodist preacher. So I got a little bit of that. I mean, I hate to say this. People are going to fuss at me for saying this, that preaching is a part of show business, but it's like getting up. You get up in front of an audience, you know.
That's right.
You don't entertain them. You try to inspire them, and it's different. But I had the preacher on one side and the fiddle player on the other side, and I came out in the middle, whatever I turned out to be. And I've got a 16-year-old granddaughter who has had no influences at all in music other than me from a distance. And boy, is she eating up with it.
That is awesome. Is she living here trying to?
She just got a job. I'm going to brag on her because she just got a job. 16 years old. She's just been hired as a hostess at the Opry House.
Oh, that's awesome.
She's going to seat people. I cannot wait for my first night on stage to look out and see my granddaughter ushering somebody to their seats in the Opry House.
That's so cool. I think I met her.
You did,
Yes.
And she's a fan of yours. She goes everywhere I go that she possibly can.
That is so amazing. You're so blessed to have that relationship.
Yes, I am, very much so.
How many grandchildren do y'all have?
We have 8.
8.
Yeah.
Yeah. I grew up in a family of 7 kids. I have 2 older brothers and 4 younger sisters. And all of us except one sister got the music talent, like got that gene, except we have one sister who like can't carry a tune in a bucket. It's so funny. Do you consider yourself to be more of a writer or more of, like an artist? Because I don't know much about before I met you. And so when I met you, I saw you. I mean, I knew that you were Whispering Bill Anderson and that you were a superstar and an Opry star and all that. But I met you primarily as a writer at Sony Tree Publishing.
Somebody asked me the other day, said, when you're gone, do you want to be remembered more as a artist, performer, singer, or as a songwriter? And I said, well, it'd just be nice to be remembered, period, But I think if I've contributed anything that will last, I think it'll be the songs I've written. So I think I am primarily a songwriter who has had a wonderful life and a wonderful career, been very blessed from the other side of being able to perform, to tour, to do the many things I've been able to do. But I think at the core of it all, I don't think any of it would have happened had I not been a songwriter. In fact, I'll tell you, the day that Owen Bradley said he would record me for Decca Records, my first recording contract, after he heard me sing a few songs, he said, well, son, you're not the greatest singer in the world. You're not the greatest I ever heard, but you sure do write good songs. So if you'll just keep writing those songs, I think we can build a singing career around that. And he was very prophetic because that's exactly what happened.
Yes. So did you know Patsy Cline?
Oh, yeah.
I'm so jealous.
She was a good old boy.
So was she a good old boy?
I toured with her a lot. She and I had the same...
No, you did not.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
How many stories you want to hear?
Every one of them. Every one that you want to tell me.
She was wonderful. She and I had the same booking agent, great Hubert Long. And we ended up on a lot of dates together. I mean, we played everything from little old tiny amusement parks and outdoor worm wrestlings and goat ropings right up to, playing some of the biggest venues around.
Yep.
She was wonderful. But I said that with a complimentary tone in my voice, I hope, when I said she was one of the boys, because she just was.
Yeah.
You didn't have to put on any airs around her. She wasn't going to put on any airs around you. You were just there, and you were on that same level, and she had that incredible voice and that wonderful talent.
Right.
Could laugh. She could shake a room with her laughter.
Oh, my God. Well, I fell in love with her when that movie came out about her in the 80s, Sweet Dreams, and did Jessica Lange do a good job playing her?
Yeah.
Was that similar to how she was? Don't bust my dreams, Bill.
Well, yes, she did do very well, but Patsy was very outspoken. She had no problem telling you how she felt. If she looked at you and called you Hoss, let me tell you, Hoss. You knew she liked you, number one, if she called you Hoss.
Okay, so that was a good thing.
Yeah. And she could tell a bawdy joke right there, right along with the guys.
I love it.
And did.
I love it. Yeah, because when I became obsessed with her, I do that. Like, I become obsessed with artists, and then I learn every single thing that I can possibly learn about them. So I taught myself, how to sing like Patsy Cline, and I thought I was acting like her based on what I knew from the movie, how they portrayed her. And my very first time when I sang at the Opry, I just pretended to be Patsy Cline. That was the only way that I could shake my
Did you try to sound like her?
No, I think I'm pretty sure I sang "Your Cheating Heart," which was her version. So yes, in some ways, but more so, I just tried to be tough like her and brave. She always seemed like really brave, and nothing would scare her, and that she wasn't afraid to do anything. So I put that in my head, went out on stage, and because I don't know if you remember when I first came out, I tried to be kind of retro, and Three Chords and the Truth was like a hillbilly, kind of country record, but we made it in California, so it was kind of West Coast, Buck Owens kind of sound. But Walk Out Backwards is the best song.
Thank you. I have always appreciated the fact that you did Walk Out Backwards. That was at a time when songs like that, just plain old three-chord hurting country songs, weren't necessarily in favor and weren't getting recorded by many people, and especially the young artists like you. And for you to come along and just dig back and pull that really kind of an obscure song at the time. It's not obscure anymore, but it was kind of obscure then, and you pulled it out and kind of brought it into people's consciousness. Did you ever hear how I wrote that song?
No, tell me.
I wondered if you ever wondered.
I just thought maybe you were drunk or something.
No, it was too early in the morning to have been drunk or something. I hadn't been married very long, and my wife and I were living over here just near Vanderbilt University in that area, which the place has been torn down now, and it's part of a big medical center and stuff to do with Vanderbilt. But we were living on a little street called Vanderbilt Place in a little upstairs apartment. And to go from the upstairs apartment to take our trash out for the garbage man to pick it up, you had to go down a set of stairs outside. It was kind of like a fire escape, metal steps down the outside of the building. So I'm sitting in the kitchen one morning. I've got my guitar, and I'm just sitting there strumming, probably had a cup of coffee, and I look up, and my wife has a bag of trash, a garbage bag in each hand. This was before the little plastic bags. This was the old paper bags, and she's got one in each arm, and she's backing up her backside up against the door to open the door so she could get out on the landing of the little fire escape and take the trash down to the garbage cans. Well, when I looked up, I just looked up from my guitar, all of a sudden, I thought she was bringing the trash into the house. I did. I said, "What are you bringing the garbage in here for?" She said, "What? I'm taking the garbage out." I said, "Oh, you were walking out backwards. I thought you were walking in." And all of a sudden, whoa.
Amazing.
So walk out backwards.
I love that song. Okay, let's just sing a little bit of it. I know I can remember all of it. I'd rather live a life of lies and fantasies than to face the truth and realize you're leaving me. You built me up so high, my heart can't stand the fall. And life without your love just isn't a life at all. So walk out backwards.
You're singing a strange key.
If you must go. I know it's a little low for me. But please don't wave goodbye. Just wave one last hello. The truth won't hurt so much if I can just pretend. So walk out backwards and I'll think you're walking in. My voice has gotten so, most people lower their keys.
Yeah.
The longer they sing, I have to raise my keys.
Really?
I cannot sing low as well as I can sing high.
Can you sing higher than you used to?
Yes.
That is amazing. I think
so
that's
weird.
the first time I've ever heard anybody say that.
I know. It's so strange, but like I've raised the key on Born to Fly, on a little bit stronger, almost every song, and it's just like better up there for me.
Wow.
I know, it's weird. But I got COVID and I had a really bad cough with it, and I kept working even and singing through the cough. Ooh. And so then I went to Vanderbilt Voice Clinic, and they were like, you shouldn't have done that. That was really dumb. So they made me vocal rest for 30 days. And I noticed kind of after that my low range would struggle a bit. So it's better for me to sing higher. Yeah.
Well, you know what I do when I'm faced with a situation like that?
What?
I do a recitation.
What is that?
I just talk.
Oh, yeah. You just talk
If
the
it gets
song.
too high or too low, I'll just talk.
Yeah. George Jones did that. And Dolly Parton, she's talked in so many of her songs.
Oh, my goodness, yeah. She's so good. She sings high, low, in between. Yeah.
She's kind of a freak.
Well, in a good way.
In a good way.
Oh, I was so honored a couple of years ago. She heard a song of mine and wanted to sing on it and came in and put a vocal part on it. We ended up with a Grammy nomination.
Wow.
It was, we didn't win, but we got nominated.
That's amazing.
That was pretty special.
There's kind of nothing she can't do or sing.
And when is she ever going to get tired and sit down and rest?
I don't know.
She's a human dynamo.
She really is.
Yeah.
I mean, she's very, very strong, and you can tell that she just has something in her. But I mean, like, you're the same way. Like, I want to be like you. I want to just keep going and going and going and working, and as long as I enjoy it.
As long as you enjoy it, that's the key to it. That's really the key. Those of us who are lucky enough to make a living doing something we enjoy are the luckiest people in the world anyway.
That's right.
And if you still enjoy it and you still get satisfaction from it, why quit it?
Exactly.
So that's the way that I felt about it. I don't do it at the pace I used to. I might write, a few years ago, I'd write 4 or 5 days a week. Now I may write 1 or 2 days a week.
That's
instead
still
of doing
a
the
lot.
Opry, 8 or 10 times a month. I'll do it 3 or 4 times a month. But I still enjoy it. I
Yes.
still love it. And I'm certainly not ready to close the door on it.
Absolutely. Nor should you. Yeah. As long as you enjoy it.
What would I do?
What would you do?
I don't know. What would you do if you weren't a singer? What would you do?
Well, I grew up on a farm, and I have long dreamed of having a farm and having horses.
Really?
I just recently started that process. I was just recently able to, I guess I would say, afford the kind of farm that I want. We have 3 horses so far. So when I slow down, that's what I'm going to be doing, is riding horses, and I think just spending time in the country.
Yeah.
In nature.
Well, something awfully peaceful about that.
Yeah, because when you spend your life on a tour bus, it's not easy. People think that it's a real glamorous life, and it's fun and it's a blessing. Don't get me wrong, but it's not glamorous. I mean, it's very, very hard work, and you're never home. I mean, I was lucky that I was able to take my kids with me on the road, and they all learned to walk and talk, and they potty trained and learned to read, all of it on a tour bus, because I just couldn't even fathom leaving them at home.
They had a hard time walking on level ground. They had to, like they're going down the aisle of the bus.
Well, thank God the bus moves at night, because it's so annoying to be on the bus awake while it's moving, isn't it?
golly.
It's the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you like to do these days when you're not on the Opry and you're not, riding?
You know what COVID did for me? I mean, I had been wound up and going. In fact, 2020 was probably going to be the busiest year I had ever had on the road. After all of these years, we had a grueling schedule. I say grueling. I mean, I looked at it and I smiled because I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And we had already been out and worked a good bit in January and February of 2020, which was unusual because most of our work was usually in the summertime.
Right.
We're out working in the wintertime, so it's going to be a great year. And then COVID hits. And all of a sudden, you're shut down, you're at home, you don't see anybody, you can't see anybody. I did the first Opry show with no audience in the Opry House, and you talk about weird.
I did one of
you're
those.
and you're up there, and there's just empty seats staring at you. Of course, I told him I was used to singing to empty seats. But I all of a sudden, I say all of a sudden, as the weather warmed up, got into spring, I could sit outdoors. Gee, this is pretty nice out here. I live on the lake, and I'm looking out at Old Hickory Lake, and I'm saying, that's right pretty down there. And these little birds are kind of cute, hopping around on my fence, and the squirrels running up the trees. I got where I could sit out there and just totally amuse myself by just being at home, which I'd never really been.
Yeah.
And when COVID ended and I came through all of that, I had a whole new appreciation for just much more of a normal life.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I have adopted.
It's been a blessing, I'm sure, because sometimes when you're forced to take a break, then you do kind of, you know, like we kind of miss the forest for the trees because we're just always going. And we do need to take that time. So even though I hated COVID and I was mad because all the shows were canceled and I was mad about it all. But sometimes, you know, well, blessings always come out of everything. You know, God's always working everything out for the good.
Yes.
Did you get COVID?
I got it twice. I had a very mild case both times. I was very fortunate that it didn't linger. I did not get long COVID. That's what has hurt a lot of friends of mine, people that they've gotten rid of COVID thinking they were over it, and then these symptoms go on and they have this long COVID, and that battle turns out to be worse than the battle they went through
Oh my gosh.
in the beginning. So I was very fortunate that I didn't get that. You got it, you said?
I did. I got one that was no symptoms at all. I felt great. And then I got one where I was very sick for, you know, about a week or so. But then I realized that, because, you know, they kept talking about like how dangerous the flu is and all that. And I laughed because I remember that I had never taken the flu seriously. And one time in Birmingham, I had the flu for about 5 weeks.
Ooh.
I was down for the count, and I laughed and thought, I mean, I probably should have gone to the doctor.
Yeah, after 5 weeks, I think I would have.
And I just didn't. I just never, like, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's a mom thing. You're always just kind of looking out for everybody else. And
Yeah, well, did your kids get it?
yeah. Yeah, we all had it. It was really annoying because it lasted forever.
Well, you're still here kicking, so
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely.
kicking with those pretty boots on.
You like these boots?
I was going to say, pull your skirt
Pull
up there
these
so
boots
people
up
can
and
see how
jump.
pretty those boots are. You cover up the real pretty part there.
No, these boots. Now these remind me of some Patsy Cline or Loretta Lynn type
Yeah.
boots, but
Yep.
these are from Lucchese, which is a story that I told you about off camera, and I'm not going to repeat it on camera, but it's a funny story. But anyway, I do love them. I think they're real cute.
They're very attractive.
Thank
pretty.
you. Yeah, they're really cute. And then we're going to a dinner tonight where the people don't allow shoes in their house. So thankfully, I got a pedicure a few days ago. So I'm going to just take these boots off and walk around barefoot, and I'm going to be fine.
I roomed in college with a young boy from Tokyo, Japanese, and the first time he came home with me for a weekend, he couldn't fly home to Tokyo for the weekend.
Right.
So he came to Decatur, Georgia with me. And the first thing he did when he came in the house was took off his shoes. And, we're just old Georgia crackers,
Yeah.
What is this kid doing taking off his shoes? And then, of course, we realized that, that is a custom and people do that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd be better. My carpet would have lasted a lot longer if I'd have taken off my shoes a few
True,
times.
yeah. But I mean, especially for girls. Well, no, especially for guys. Like, what would you do if you had to take those amazing boots off and walk around someone's house?
I'd probably slip and fall because your socks are pretty.
Your socks
pretty
are going to be
slippery. I do
slick.
have socks on under these.
Exactly. So you're still riding 2 days a week.
Not every week.
Not every week.
I'll tell you what I've gotten back to, and this has amazed me, because for the first 25 to 30 years that I lived here, I wrote everything, virtually everything. 98% of what I wrote by myself.
Wow.
And I had not gotten into co-writing. And then when some things happened and some things came along and some opportunities opened up, I began co-writing a lot, like when I wrote with John Randall and these different people, Vince Gill and many others.
Mm-hmm.
When COVID hit, you're not going to invite a co-writer over to your house. You're not going to go to their house. I started writing by myself again.
Mm-hmm.
And this has been good for me. It's been very good because as a writer, I think sometimes you tend to use that co-writer as a crutch. And you
Yes.
say, okay, if I can't, I'm not going to worry too hard about coming up with this line because he'll come up with it or she'll come up with it.
Right.
And the co-writer becomes a crutch. You're sitting there by yourself. You're looking in the mirror. You say, hey, me or you one's got to come up with this line. And ain't nobody here but me. So it forces a different kind of discipline on you. I'm so glad to have discovered that. I've got a song on my new record that I wrote all by myself, and I'm kind of proud of that. I mean, I love co-writing. I don't want to stop doing it at all. But to have that moment and that knowledge and that feeling that, hey, if I have to do this by myself, I can.
Yeah.
And I will.
That just means that you're a great writer, because I've only written a few songs all by myself and they're not very good. I mean, I'm
How
much
do you
more,
know?
I don't know. I'm very critical of myself, but I tend to write lyrics.
Yeah.
That's, you know, kind of what I enjoy the most. Is that what you do? Yeah. Cause I feel like I'm repeating my melodies all the time and, you know, just not being creative with the music side of it, but you can always create something new to say. And so I like to write with a great female singer, and I'll just be sitting there, and I still write with a notebook. I don't write with a laptop.
Good for you. I do
Yeah.
too.
I've never done the laptop writing. I hate it. And also I typically write for each album. So I'm not like you where I just write, you know, year round. If I'm getting ready to, let's say, you know, we need an album by June, then I'll start writing in January or maybe even November before that. And I like to write in one notebook. And then at the end of the album, I like to have every song in that notebook
In your own handwriting.
in my own handwriting. And that's the album.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to like take pictures of it and post it and show the fans. Don't you agree?
Oh, yeah. Did I ever tell you about the time I was writing with John Randall again and with Brad Paisley? And of course, they're all both a lot younger than I am. And they're sitting there with their laptops. And Brad's got 8 million wah-wah pedals spread out across the floor and all this high-tech guitar stuff. And John's pretty much the same way over there. And I'm sitting across the room with my little number 2 pencil and my legal pad.
Yeah.
And I'm perfectly content because that's the way I like to write. And all of a sudden, Brad stops right in the middle. He looks over at me. He says, "Hey, Moses." "Moses, when did you quit writing with a hammer and chisel?"
I mean, he just better wait, because he's going to get all kinds of that crap from his kids if he hasn't already. But I agree with you. It's like we're writing. Like, I don't know. It takes away it just becomes so, what do you call it?
It's called songwriting, not song typing.
Exactly. And I like to scribble off to the side and
And then at the end of the day, when you look back on it, you may take it and put it on the computer, which I do. But at the end of the day, you've got that handwritten lyric. And nobody ever comes to you from a museum and says, "Can I put your typewritten lyric up on a frame?"
exactly.
They want that handwritten lyric that you sat there and wrote right by your hand.
I agree
With your little
100%.
number 2 pencil.
I totally agree. Now, I do write with a pen.
That's a big mistake.
It is.
You
I
need
have
an eraser.
I have a lot of scribbles, believe me. But I like to write with those, you know, those little Sharpies. You know, it's not like a regular Sharpie. They're like the little skinny ones,
seen
and they
those,
come in all different colors. So I like to bring all these colors, and then over here, maybe in purple, I'll write an idea like for the chorus, and then in pink, I've got the verses, and I'm just weird.
Oh, that's
like that.
funny.
Yeah.
No, that's just, it's part of your creativity.
Right.
You're a creative person, and that's just another part of your creativity.
Right. Now, how old were you when you moved to town? What did your parents think of it? Did they think you were crazy? Because you weren't.
Don't all parents think musicians are crazy?
Well, my mom pushed us. I mean,
Oh, really?
She really
Pushed you
did.
out the door?
she pushed us out the door, especially me, because my 2 older brothers started taking guitar lessons. They would come home and practice, and I would just start singing along at age 4. And I think our parents, I can just kind of visualize them like doing a double take and thinking our kids have talent, like true musical talent. And So my mother went out and bought music equipment and hired musicians, and basically we started out doing bluegrass. And by the time I was 6 years old, I was singing in bars, watching drunk people two-step.
Oh, my goodness.
Doing the whole 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. gig.
Yeah.
And so my entire life was spent on stage performing.
Wow.
Running bands, leading bands at age 9, 10, 11. So there was just no question that I was going to move to Nashville. And, you know, I didn't want to go to college. I went to college for 11 days.
11 days?
11 days. And I quit because I was like, what am I doing? I've already got my trade or whatever. Yeah. I paid all 3 of my children not to go to college because I was like, it's a ripoff. You're all talented in music. You don't need to go. I don't know. That's just another whole conversation in and of itself.
So you want to know what my parents thought?
Yeah, I want to know.
I told my dad, I said, Dad, I want to be a musician when I grow up. He said, you can't do both.
Did he really say that? That's amazing.
You can't grow up and be a musician. You have to choose between. So I chose being a musician instead of growing up.
That is kind of true. But it keeps you young. Like, I swear, being in the entertainment world keeps you young.
It does, and especially, you know, associating with younger people. Mm-hmm. You know, that, of course, there's no older people around for me to associate with anymore. I have to associate with younger people. Like Merle Haggard said one time, he said, I used to like older women, now there aren't any.
Another one of my favorite voices.
Oh, yeah.
Did you ever write with him?
No, and boy, what I would have loved to have done to have written with him. Never did. Toured with him some, not a lot, because he was always primarily based on the West Coast, so it just wasn't convenient. But there were some times that I did get to tour with him, and I used to love to just stand over on the side of the stage and listen to him and watch him. You know?
Yeah. He was amazing. But really, they worried or no? You just came here at what age? And did you think I'm going to be a country music star, or I'm going to start out as a writer?
Well, the writing thing had already started for me. What happened, I was working as a disc jockey in a little town down in Commerce, Georgia. And I had written a song that found its way to Nashville and got recorded called City Lights, that Ray Price recorded. It had a #1 record on it, stayed #1 forever. And that had opened the doors in Nashville. So I didn't just totally come here with no credentials, with no background, nothing to build on. I had City Lights. I'm Bill Anderson. Nobody knows who I am, but I did write the song City Lights.
I'm trying so hard to think of that song.
I'm sorry, it's what?
I'm trying so hard to think of that song.
How does that go? A bright array of city lights as far as I can see. Yeah. Ray Price had a big hit, and then Mickey Gilley had a #1 record on it 15 years or so later.
I can't believe you wrote that.
I wrote it by myself, and I was 19 years old, and that's what opened the doors for me. So my parents kind of got a little bit of a hint, a warning, though he's going to go to Nashville, because that was just, you know, you kind of had to do that. I mean, you still do to a certain degree, but even more so back then.
Yes.
I had met a young guy in the Army in Atlanta that we became good friends, and we both decided we wanted to go to Nashville. And we said, well, if I get there first, I'll help you. If you get there first, you help me. Well, his name was Roger Miller.
No way.
And he got to Nashville, and he kept his promise. He helped me. I came here, and Roger introduced me to people that I needed to know.
Wow.
Yeah. So I think my parents probably thought, well, let him get it out of his system. He'll come back home and get a real job one of these days. But fortunately, I never had to do that. Yeah. I was able to stay here and make a living doing something that I really loved and was passionate about.
Amazing.
Very blessed. If there's one word to describe Bill Anderson, it's blessed, and I know it.
Yeah. Well, you have had such a blessed career, but you're also just blessed with such a talent to write. I mean, you're like such a great poet, and
thank you.
You really are. It's just amazing. How come we've never written together?
I don't know. You've never invited me.
You never invited me.
Oh, is it work that way?
I don't know. How
Hey,
does
Sarah,
it work?
I got witness. Sarah, would you write a song with me sometime?
I would love to. Now, I don't play an instrument. I mean, not good enough to write. So,
Well, that kind of lets it out. I don't either.
we'll bring my son, Avery. He plays
no,
guitar.
I'm kidding. I can play enough to
You can play enough to write.
write a melody. Yeah.
Well, I've got this idea about something about I don't know. It just kind of came to me. It's like about a burning cigarette, like it's midnight.
La 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 la.
That's a good idea.
I love
isn't
you.
it?
You don't play it straight. You just play it like it. I love that. How about you?
I want to thank you so much also for surprising me with the invitation to join the Opry. Bill, they waited so long to make me an Opry member that I already thought I was a member.
A lot of other people thought you were too. I have wanted to ask you ever since that night. You were performing at the Ryman, and they had it queued up somewhere that I was supposed to come on stage at a certain time. And in the middle of your show, which I had to unnerve you, somebody comes walking out there, and of course, I said I had two questions I wanted to ask you. I wanted to ask you if you remembered Walk Out Backwards, and you sang part of it.
Right.
And then I said, would you like to become a member there of the Opry? What did you think at that moment? What was going through your mind?
I was just, when you came out on stage, I sort of thought,
He ain't out here to sing, huh?
yeah. And then I also thought it makes so much sense that they would ask you to ask me, because of our history together. Yeah. And so it kind of, not that I wasn't surprised because I was, but it sort of like hit me right then. He's about to ask me to, be an Opry member.
The second question is from me and Carly and Lady A and a bunch of other people. And the question is, would you like to become a member of the Grand Ole Opry?
No.
All day long I said to myself, what would I say if you said no?
There is no way that I would say no. First of all, I've been waiting to be asked to join the Opry for a long time, and it's always been a dream of mine. And I'm so honored that you're here to ask me that question. And thank you. It means everything to me.
And I also knew that the show at the Ryman was a big deal because we were celebrating 20 years of the Restless album. Mm-hmm. But, why did my family and my friends and everybody make such a big effort to be there?
Oh, so they knew?
They knew.
Oh, okay.
They knew, and I was going to be surprised. But the other thing that was going through my head was, thank God that, they've asked me to join the Opry before I die or get sepsis from my tooth that's hurting so bad right now. But to be honest, I really did. Thank you.
For your tooth.
Thank you so much. Peroxycare. Now, Bill, I am not a fan of this toothpaste because I don't like the taste of the baking soda in the toothpaste.
They got baking soda in it?
But it's better for you because the fluoride is bad.
Oh.
I mean, they say fluoride kills you. I don't know. It hasn't hurt me yet, except I do have sepsis in my tooth. But that's because I brush my teeth
with Monistat. I always walk around with a tube of toothpaste in my pocket just in case.
I've heard that about you. You never know. You just never know. No, but I do want to thank you for that, because that was such a special moment that I obviously will never forget. My family will never forget. And you've always been special to my family because of Walk Out Backwards and because of meeting you when I first moved to, it's just like, you're one of those people in my life and my career that is like, you were one of those, I can't believe this is happening to me people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So,
Well, I still remember going to the little, I know, some kind of a little barn type building out on the outskirts of town when you had just finished, I think, your album, and you were doing like a showcase showing the industry people your record, and you had a band and you were singing. And this was early in my days of really getting in and starting to write and be associated with the next generation that was coming along. Mm-hmm. And you were one of the first ones of that generation that did a song of mine. And I was so proud of it. And I stood there that day, and I remember you had on a yellow dress. And anyway, you started singing Walk Out Backwards. And I thought, I'm pretty much on top of the world right now. This is really cool.
That is awesome.
I have associated with you from that moment, from those early days, and I'm glad that you haven't forgotten me either, and I appreciate you inviting me to come here and share these few minutes with you today.
You too. We've always had a special friendship, and I love, too, that Walk Out Backwards came from such a funny thing, because your wife had to walk out backwards to get the door open and the trash. And you were like, why are you bringing the trash in?
That's what I thought.
That's just perfect. I mean, that story is just
That's the way a country song ought to be written, isn't it?
Totally. That's what Loretta Lynn was always so good at
yeah.
And I grew up with that same type of country, I call it country humor. Mm-hmm. When you grow up in a small town or on a farm, and thank God my parents were funny. They taught me how to be that kind of Dolly Parton, Reba's got it.
Yeah.
Loretta Lynn had it, that old timey way of being funny. Obviously.
Reba and Dolly knew that they had. I don't think Loretta ever knew she had it. She just had it.
She just had it. Yeah. She just said whatever came to her mind. Totally.
Loretta, what's the difference between a fiddle and a violin? Did you ever hear that?
No.
Somebody asked, what's the difference between a fiddle and a violin? She said, well, that's easy. She said, a fiddle is a fiddle, and a whole bunch of fiddles is a violin. She didn't know how funny that was.
And it's kind of true.
Oh, yeah. A whole bunch of fiddles together becomes a string section. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, I cannot thank you enough for being here today, really, honestly. This has been such a treat, and I know how busy we are. By the way, do you have a boat that you will take me out on Old Hickory Lake where you live?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
When you want to go. That's when we'll write. We'll write our song on the lake.
That would be amazing.
Yes.
That would be amazing. I mean, I'm free almost never. But
that's my schedule too.
Yeah. So are you touring right now?
Right this minute?
Yeah, right now.
Yeah, you want to go?
Going to get on the bus tonight?
Yeah, where are we going?
I mean, I got to go to a dinner with no shoes.
You what?
I got to go to a dinner where I can't wear shoes.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
You going on the bus?
No. Oh. We're just going to, Jay's going to pick me up from here and we're going to get a dinner. Oh. And then tomorrow I'm going to go get my sepsis taken care of.
It's funny that you went to the dentist yesterday and I went to the dentist yesterday.
That's really weird.
Yeah.
And I had a tooth pulled.
I didn't.
It hurts, but you've got to do something.
Yeah, I've got a crown that has come a little loose, and he wants to get it the rest of the way off and get out and dig out from it. It's been in there 200 years.
My granny's dentist's name was Dr. Payne. I'm not lying. I'm not lying. That was the name of her dentist.
It's like a lawyer I had one time. He was Mr. Cheatham. Dr. Payne and a lawyer named Mr. Cheatham.
We've got so much to write about.
We do, don't we?
It's going to take more than one boat day.
More than one boat.
But at least there will be no laptops. What do you think of country music right now?
I try not to.
I know. Me too.
No, I don't mean that. There's a lot of
me neither.
Very young, creative, talented people out there. I tell you what I've stopped to think about. I mean, we look at some of these in my generation, and I've heard people say, well, you know, these guys are not, or these girls are not, they're not country like we were. They're doing it a different way. But you know what? I bet you when me and Willie and Roger Miller and Mel Tillis and Tom T. Hall and Loretta and Dolly, I bet when we came to town, I bet some of those old timers,
Thought the same
Mr.
thing.
Acuff, Mr. Tubb, some of those people, the old string bands, I bet they thought those people are coming in here and killing country music.
You're right.
Because we were writing about stuff and singing about stuff that they hadn't been singing about. They sang about, you know, train wrecks and, you know, all kinds of
Walking the floor over you.
well, we still might sing that, but
Yeah, that's true.
but we took it to a different place, and these kids are taking it to a different place, which doesn't mean it's wrong.
It's not really the artists either. It's the industry. That's what frustrates me because I've got, you know, children who want to make it in music, and I don't know the first thing to tell them because I feel like the whole system is upside down.
Just when you learn the answers, they change the questions.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there are so many great and talented artists, but I feel like it's nearly impossible to make it these days.
I'd hate to be starting out today.
I would too. I really, really would. But you know, I mean, Martina was on an episode of this podcast, and we were talking about how we feel very lucky that we got our record deals at the time we did because it was so like you got the record deal and your label made you famous. Now they want you to be famous first.
I met Martina. You know how I met her?
No.
She waited on me in a restaurant where she was working as a waitress.
Really?
Before she ever had anything going. And after she served me my meal and I was getting ready to leave, she came over to the table and handed me an 8x10, and she had autographed it to me.
Wow.
And I thought, this poor little girl, bless her heart, you know, there's 10 million just like her in town. I took the 8x10 home and put it away. And about 6 months later, I'm watching television one day, and I'm seeing this girl in a video, and I'm thinking, I've seen her somewhere before. Wait a minute. And I went and pulled out that picture, and it was Martina McBride, and the girl singing on TV was named Martina McBride. So you just don't ever know. I mean, that's a story that, you know, should inspire people.
Yes.
Because here one minute she's waiting on me in this restaurant, and the next minute, you know, I'm watching her on television. You know what I told her after I saw her? I said, I sure hope I left you a good tip.
I'm sure you did.
She said I did.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. Yeah. You don't strike me as somebody who wouldn't leave a good tip. And you brought me toothpaste.
Well, I don't do that for just anybody.
I know that. Yeah.
And I don't offer to go out on my boat and write songs with just anybody either.
Will you please take me on your boat to write a song?
I would love to.
Okay. I'm going to bring an idea, okay?
Okay.
Because you already warned me kind of in your story. Like, don't show up without an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody needs to bring an idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be something about sepsis.
Well, I've had that.
Have you had sepsis?
Yes, I had it one time.
Was it terrible?
My blood pressure went like vroom. Yeah. I'm laying on a gurney over in Vanderbilt Hospital hoping I'm going to make it till morning.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, not fun.
Well, I'm going to the for all of you guys who don't know what we're talking about. I had a tooth pulled on Monday. Yours was yesterday. Mine was Monday. And it was an old root canal from childhood that was broke and it was infected. And I've called them every day since Monday to ask a question because I'm a freak. And it really hurts today. And so they told me to come in tomorrow so that they can tell me I have sepsis.
Ugh.
No, I don't have sepsis. I'm fine.
We can't write about what rhymes with sepsis. See, there's probably nothing we can't write a song about that.
Yeah, I'll think of something by then. I really will. Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff though that'll rhyme with toothache.
See, there is a lot of stuff.
Don't you think? Like,
Toothache. Oh yeah, we could come out with
heartbreak.
Something. Sure, we could. Yeah, we could fudge a little bit.
Yeah,
you know,
root canal.
Orange.
Orange, you glad I didn't say sepsis?
Well, they say that orange and silver are like the only two words in the English language that don't rhyme with something.
Silver?
That's what they say. Like a true rhyme.
True rhyme.
Not what we could make rhyme with it, but
Right.
what would be a true rhyme.
Yeah, like a hard rhyme. Because there's a soft rhyme, surely, that
Well, there's
works.
a soft rhyme for everything.
there's a soft rhyme for everything. I like to do rhymes where you have a word like silver and then you take it into the next line.
Oh, yeah.
And eventually it rhymes.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah,
wonderful.
I just think that we should get together and write a song about two alcoholics who die.
About who?
Two alcoholics that die and call it Whiskey Lullaby. I just think that would be a great
That's too
idea.
much like Doggy in the Window.
Yeah. Was that a real song?
What, Doggy in the Window?
Yeah.
How much is that
doggy in the window. Ruff, ruff. The one with the waggly tail. Ruff, ruff. How much is that doggy in the window? I sure hope that doggy's for sale.
Homer and Jethro saying, I sure hope that flea bag's for sale.
Did you ever listen to the Statler Brothers comedy?
Oh, goodness gracious.
That was amazing.
Some of the funniest stuff I've ever heard. Of course, they're some of the greatest guys that ever came down the pike anyway.
Yeah, they I mean, I never got to meet him, but they had Oh, I Lobster and Never Flounder. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That was a great. Why did they do that? Just to
Because
be.
they like to have fun.
Yeah.
They just guys that like to have fun. I think they did it to amuse each other and themselves probably as much as anything.
That record is freaking hilarious. My brother Jay owned that record and we listened to it all the time.
Well, did you hear? I mean, was that the Cadillac Cowboys record? Was that the same one or was that a different record?
I was really little, but I just remember Lobster and Never Flounder and a couple others, but it was just so funny. It probably was. I mean, I think you could hear like a live audience and laughing.
And they imitated me on there, which I always loved.
They did?
There's poor old Bill Andrews, a poor old boy himself. It's old road hog.
I do remember that. That's an honor.
Oh, well, it was, and I took it that way.
Yeah.
Very much so.
That is an honor.
I got a lot of people came up to, hey, they'd call me that, they'd see me out on tour or something. There's old Bill Andrews.
Bill Andrews. And what was the other thing? Hog?
The poor old boy himself. I'm sorry, what?
Did you say boss hog or what else did you say? Do I have sepsis? Am I losing my mind? They called you Bill Andrews and then you said something else.
Because, I had the song Po Folks and people say Bill Anderson and, it's Po Folks Band or something like that. Say, here's old whistling Bill Andrews, the poor old boy himself. I can't do that. I need water. Excuse me.
Maybe we both have sepsis.
Please, I've been there. I've had mine.
Is it contagious?
I don't think so.
I hope not.
It's like in your
hugged you
blood,
hard
isn't it?
when you got here.
I'm sorry?
I hugged you when you got here.
And I gave you sepsis. That's our song title. You gave me a heartbreak and I gave you sepsis.
Yes. And then we're going to think of a word that rhymes with sepsis. Now I can't think of anything
And
else.
I drank a
except trying
six-pack of Pepsis.
You brought me some Pepsis and I gave you sepsis.
That's it. That's the song right there.
All right, it's a deal.
Move over, folks. That'll be the song of the year. I love you, and I love visiting with you.
I love you. Thank
You're
you
such
so
a
much
pro.
for doing this. Bill
Thank
Anderson,
you.
everybody.
Thank you.
That was amazing.